All right. Up a goal, and Romy says, possess it. Why? Why? You're thinking that we're up a goal. We don't need it necessarily, but why? Why do we need to keep it still?
If we have the ball, they can't score.
If we have it, they can't score. All right? We say that also with managing it. When we say manage it, how so, Brody?
I mean, if we're playing with the ball in the back, then it's a little bit risky, just clear it if worse comes to worse, better than getting it out and getting our shape again and then playing around with the back there and losing it.
So it's managing then where we keep the ball, right? We want to keep possession, but we manage where we want to keep it. If we're up a goal, where would we prefer to have it? In their half. That's right. So it might be playing a little bit more direct to get the ball in their half, especially because if they're down a goal, what do they need to do? Press it. Press it. All right? Some of the principles. If you're down a goal, what does it look like? What is it? Press. Press. So we got to step a little bit higher, all right, in doing it. What else? Do we need to take some risks? At some point. At some point, as the game goes on, 5 minutes left, will you have to expose yourself a little bit? Will you have to push numbers a little bit higher? Will you have to take some chances? Absolutely. You have to be willing to understand that and manage that part of it so that we still maintain some balance to it and yet push numbers forward to make sure that we have a chance to even the game and possibly win it. We're going to show you a clip here of one of the great highlights. This is where it starts. Man U, Bayern Munich, Champions League final, 3 minutes left, and stop it there. Okay. So we also talk about your up a goal. What is it that we want to limit? Restarts. Restarts. Fouling, a half in, whatever it is, allows them one ball in. One ball. All right, now it's not 2, 3, 4 passes. When there's a restart and we foul, give them a corner, we now give them one ball in. This was one where could he have, and again, he was stretching a little bit, can he knock it out for a throw-in rather than a corner? Changes the game. Those little things and the details of it is preventing one ball in. If you give them one free ball in, what now happens? They have a free ball in, 3 minutes left. What now happens? What do you think Man U is going to do? They're down a goal. What is it? Everybody, including the goalkeeper. Because we talk about it, they need to take a risk, don't they? They need to take risks. So at this point, they say, look, we're even going to throw the goalkeeper and let it run. And stop it there real quick. Managing it. Managing it. The ball goes out, right? And as soon as it does, what happens? A Man U player gets to it and does what? Did you notice that? He smacks it out wide. He gets it to the corner. He wasn't waiting for the ball boy to do it, was he? Right? Ball goes out, it goes over he sprints to it and quickly knocks it over to the corner flag. Managing it. That time at the end of the game of getting as much time as possible. All right? So you're down a goal. How can you maximize the time you have left? That's one of the things. So we give him one free shot. One kick in. Goalkeeper's up, touches it. Even. And stop it there. We get to lights just for a second because I'm going to talk to the coaches a little bit about this as well. Now what's important for Bayern? What is it? The response. How? How? What response? Response is important, but how?
The most dangerous times in the game is like the
need to manage like their response in terms of make sure they don't concede again or try to go and score.
For sure. Tell me specifically the response,
The focus,
the focus.
they need to get back the same level of focus they were before, and same level of confidence they had when they were leading.
Yes. Yes. Do you have to maybe fake it a little bit? Huh? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. We showed a video in here 2 years ago about the power of body language, a TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, recommend you go do it. I will remember the lady's name.
Anne. First name was Anne, I think.
Okay, so here's the message of it. Body language is that many times we think our body language, okay, will replicate how we feel. Where many times what happens is the body language causes us to feel a certain way. They did a study that they put people in a very dominant position for a couple of minutes. Dominant, chest out, head up, and they asked them just to stand there for 2 minutes. Likewise, they put other people in a very recessive, cowering position, head down, maybe arms in, shoulders in, for 2 minutes. What they found out afterwards, in their saliva, it was different. Those that were in cowering positions had a high anxiety hormone in them. All right? Those that were in a more dominant position had less of the anxiety hormone. Furthermore, they allowed them to gamble afterwards. Those that were in a dominant position took way more risk, gambled much more freely. Those who are in a cowering position, they didn't want to risk anything. Your response, and this is important that we understand this, your response in a situation like that has to be in a victory position, has to be up, head up, because as soon as you come, put your head down, the shoulders slumped, your physiology changes. Who you are changes. So that you're willing to take less risk. You're willing to act in a more forward and dominating factor. So even in those moments, the game isn't over. Or is it? Depending on how Bayern Munich handles it. All right, an important lesson for us both ways. We had an exercise, I'll tell you real quickly, we had an exercise this spring. And this wasn't happening on purpose, but it happened just the same. That we told the guys in a meeting like this that the way it was going to work, the training, they were going to volunteer first, and after the volunteer, that Mario was going to lead them on a long run. That's all we said. Mario and I had talked about it, and the long run was going to consist of this, that they come out of Traeger, take a right on Floyd, Central, down 2nd Street, down Cardinal, and it was this long, big, huge block, going to take them between 17 and 20 minutes to run. We decided before it was even started that they were going to do it twice. Well, the guys go over there, Mario gets them after the volunteer training, they take off on the run. Take a right, go down, and evidently what happens is, on Floyd, at the last part of it, a train comes. So it stops some of the guys up front. Train goes by, and they take off ahead of Mario, and they're moving. Excited, lots of energy, going, and they get to where Traeger is, where they started. And there's some high-fiving, and they're take the right and moving up towards the driveway. Mario's about 10 yards behind them. And he comes by me, and I'm waiting there, and he says, they have no idea we're going again. So as he runs by them, they're taking a right up the Traeger, right? He runs by them, he says, guys, we're going again. So now the finish line is moved. In their minds, they thought it was done. Now the finish line has moved. It was interesting to see the body language of how many guys, the head went down and the shoulders slumped, and guess what? All of a sudden, the energy was zapped. Didn't have it in them. And those that said, okay, let's go. Let's go. Took off with Mario and just went. And what a difference. When the finish line is moved, When we have in our mind when it is, when it's moved, how we handle that will determine whether we're ready to continue the journey or not. All right? And that's so important for our players, isn't it? That they may have an idea in their mind where the journey should end, when the finish line is. Of preparing them for those moments when it may be moved a little bit. And having that mental fortitude to keep going on a journey. The difference between success and sometimes failure. All right? Let's play the last little bit. Michael, touch, keeping it alive. Second chance on top of the box. And man, that's something that I'm sure, man, you had trained. You'll be having guys in the box for second goal. The guy that scores in a sub, he comes on, makes a difference in the game. They had to play another forward to take more risks. Another restart. Another restart. Body language a little bit different. That was a little bit painful for Tim, who's a German. All right, to see that again. But again, the lessons of that, as we take that on to what we're doing today, and for us as coaches watching how we handle it, of training those moments in the game where, again, you have to preserve the game, finish it off, or you're chasing the game, and how we handle it. All right, focusing on managing time both ways. All right, if you're up a goal, all right, use the time to your advantage. If you're chasing it, is making sure you use the clock to get as many minutes, seconds out of it that you can, because it makes a difference. All right, the discipline, and we talk about this, the discipline of what we do in preserving the game, or the discipline of how we go about chasing it, is so important. All right, good. Anything else?
I would just add one thing that I haven't shared with Ken, but I think one of the signs of a really tight-knit team, the ability that team has to weather storms, is what happens after that goal is given up, late in the match, where for whatever reason you're not able to close it out, and all of a sudden that shock sets in, you're frozen. There was this particular game in November that still haunts me, as you guys very well know, and for me, like, what happened after, because we felt it on the bench. I mean, I couldn't move. But trying to get the team together, a huddle after that goal happened on the field. Everybody was by themselves at that point, and everybody had that look, the same look that Bayern Munich had. Everybody on their own, everybody wide-eyed, and just thinking, what are we going to do now? Can you imagine what we would look like in a huddle? Bombs are going off around us, the crowd is going nuts, and we're able to look each other in the eyes and not hide from it, but figure out a way in 30 seconds that, look, we're gonna rally behind this somehow. And even if you're faking it, because I know how much that hurts. Even if you're faking it, but all 11 guys are looking each other in the eye. And even if we as a staff do it, and figure out, okay, what do we do now? And Ken and I look each other in the eye. Joe, Dave, whoever's there, we're confronting it together so that we can now convey that to you guys. Can you imagine what that looks like? And how much easier it is to know that you're not alone, that we can all do this together and bounce back from something that seems insurmountable. When in reality, if you work together, there's always a chance, and I think we lack that. And it's something that we need to develop, this resilience that comes only when we're in it together. So something to plan for hopefully for the future.
I think that's great. The last thing is the communication aspect of it, that we're all on the same page, that we make sure that whatever the plan is, that we all into it. Because if one guy's off doing his own thing, we're playing with one less. All right? Whether it's chasing the game or preserving it, we must make sure that we're all on the same page. Super. Here we go. We'll head over. Coaches, you can stay just for a second. Any thoughts or comments? Any questions? Yes.
With the 2-minute breathing period, I've seen that used for other kinds of things. How did you teach them, how did you get them into that at the beginning of the season when they first get there?
We walk them through it so that what they do is and they may have their own little differences in it, but it starts by first concentrating on your stomach moving in and out in your breathing. And then we follow the air coming in through the nose, out through the mouth. We follow that. And then it's getting tuned into different parts of your body. So they've been walked through that a number of times that we don't have to continue to walk them through it. Let them go on their own. And some may find that they're tuned in more to the stomach moving in and out or the breathing, whatever it is. But it's more of a concentration of focus, a centralizing before we go out to kind of leave everything else that's going on behind and they get tuned into what's going on.
If you do that on the field, you sitting, kneeling, standing?
We generally do it before training, and we always are in this kind of an environment, a classroom environment. We recommend to them that they do it in their own house, apartment, wherever they are, dorm, whatever it is at times, because again, it's a way of just calming the body down and getting focused.
I don't have access to a room like this.
If you do it on the field,
Yeah.
I would simply have them sitting there,
Okay.
just sitting on the ground. If there's a bench, sitting on a bench is okay. If you don't have a bench, just sitting them down. Yeah, that's good. Any other thoughts? Yes.
How do you manage their fitness? And do they have heart monitors on? How do you know they're working on it?
Generally, what we'll do is they do have heart monitors on, and some of them will have a GPS as well. So between both of those, we manage their fitness very well. During the season, the biggest challenge for many of the guys is not overtraining them. And then the biggest challenge for some is making sure they stay fit because they're not playing enough games. So what happens is we actually, usually on most days, we have 3 different trainings. Right? You have a training for those guys that are playing significant minutes. You have a training for those guys that are playing, maybe 15 to 30 minutes, and then you have a training for those guys that aren't playing at all. For us, we have to devise many times 3 different trainings. So we have to manage it based on, how many minutes they're playing twice a week. Good question. Anything else? Yes.
Provide us a book list of your favorite top 10 books.
David will send that out to you. Leadership Top 10. He'll send that out to you. He'll make sure of that. Yep. Superb. That's part of the symposium. We'll get that to you. Anything else? Yes.
You use clips to obviously emphasize the points that you're trying to make. Do you always use clips to make that point? Is it just a thing where they know they're going to see a visual or what?
As much as possible, because people learn in different ways. We can sit up here and talk, and somebody's not auditory, they're visual. So helping them see it is a way of helping them learn. So as much as possible, we try to use as many different areas for them to receive it and learn. And we have the access to do video, so we do. Sometimes us, sometimes others.
And how long do you typically, because I was trying to see whether you start around 9:15 maybe, is it too like a quick 15 minutes and then we'll go, 20 minutes?
It depends on a day. It could be as quick as 5. Sometimes it could be a half an hour, depending on what we have to go over. Yeah. Good. Let's go over and have some fun.